who died in
1994, just this past February, 26. 14. 14.
14 years old.
Mm-hmm.
You made this tape, didn't you? Of this is Eric in the tape.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Now, but I'm talking now about the tape where you're administering the factor.
Right.
Okay, you're all right, Mom. I don't imagine it's possible to hurt you any more than you have been. So we're not going to patronize you. And if you cry, you cry. Here is. You did this. First of all, you are suing the manufacturer of the blood product that infected your son.
Right. We're suing Miles Cutter Pharmaceutical Company.
You allege, among other things, in your lawsuit, and we'll pick up some more details about this, that you're alleging gross negligence at the time. In other words, all kinds of yellow lights went on. I mean, here we were in 1982 talking about this.
They knew.
You believe they knew?
Absolutely.
They knew.
They could have saved Eric's life. They could have stopped the train coming down that track.
To say again and insult our audience's intelligence, most hemophiliacs are male. Some are female, and you'll meet one, but it's rare. Most of those who are afflicted are, like Ryan White, male. Here are the Elmans administering the factor. This is what you do if there's someone in your family who is a hemophiliac. Here you are administering the factor. Take us to school here, Dad.
Well, we're doing it at home. The bottle that he just showed you there, we're reconstituting it, putting it in solution. Eric needs a shot. This is like last year. And we're mixing it up. And I'm going to start an IV and infusing, you know, with the factor at this time.
Right. And yes, it does hurt, and you'll see.
Absolutely.
It's darn right it hurts. This is right. But it is the necessary product to prohibit the undue bleeding. It promotes clotting. And you have buried your son just this past February. I want you to know that we'll meet other people on this program, including a man who at 49 has been diagnosed HIV positive. He is one of 6 sons born with hemophilia. 9 of his family members, including his wife, have died of AIDS. And we'll talk with the people who will establish for us what we know now about what the companies who manufactured the factor knew, what kind of lawsuits are underway, and why did it take so long. You saw this in The Band Played On HBO. You saw this in Randy Schultz's book presentation for television, which talked about why it took so long for us to realize that this was a killer. And you've already heard the testimony of one parent who believes in his heart that these companies knew and didn't do anything about it because it would cost millions of dollars to wipe the shelves of the contaminated factor. And we'll be back in just a moment. Hi. This is very, very sad. You should know that this video, which was made in their home, features their son Eric, who died in February. And it is part of your gathering information and presenting materials as your lawsuit makes its way.
That's right.
So,
right.
All right. This is about seeing the pain. This is about not sanitizing bad news. This is about telling the truth. And here it is. This is Eric.
Most people are always doing things that I can't do. I mean, my friend has me over sometimes, and I'm sick, and they probably wonder why I'm sick all the time.
Do they know why you're sick?
No.
What's the force that keeps driving you?
My parents. And the Bible.
Are you okay?
Yeah.
And we know that's rough, but so is this story. And maybe we should have cried a long time ago, you know?
Phil, can I say something?
By all means, Dad, go.
I want to say also that we're here today to let you know that Eric had a voice, and they aren't going to snuff out Eric's voice. But we're also here today. I appreciate it. But we're also here today. There's hundreds and thousands of boys that are still infected and that have died already. That, you know, for one reason or the other, you know, they didn't want to come forth or couldn't come forth. And their voice needs to be heard, too.
Let's understand how complicated this is. Not every hemophiliac was ready to hold a press conference.
Correct.
You went in a closet. They didn't want your son at school.
Your neighbors might burn down your house. Right.
Jeannie White took a bullet in her window.
And the Rays lost their house. They burned.
And all the local radio stations could do were talk about faggots and sin and God's punishment.
That's right.
So how quickly would you run to the principal and say, my baby son here has tested positive? And where was the National Haemophiliac Foundation throughout all this? In a moment, we'll meet a man who resigned because he felt the foot dragging was so intense that he could no longer tolerate it. And we'll talk with Shelley. You're 26, and you're a hemophiliac.
Yes, I am.
Boy, of all you had to be the rare person. You're not even sure why, are you?
No.
I mean, don't you have to have a certain combination of parenthood, but you don't. It doesn't,
right.
Somehow, you don't know why, but you're a hemophiliac. You bleed like a real big leaguer when you bleed, huh?
Yeah, I could compete with the best of them.
Right. And you had your first factor?
Very young, less than a year.
Less than a year old?
Yes.
So we would ask you, that would be what year? You don't mind?
67, 68.
Huh. But now, we can assume that there was no contamination out there in 67 and 68. We don't know, but that's not likely. But you kept getting the factor then throughout the 70s, obviously. You
regularly.
Regularly. We'll tell your story when we come back in just a moment. For the Ellmans and for so many people out there, this information comes too late. And you could be on holiday, and you're not. You're here because you want to save other lives. When did you test positive, Shelley?
It was a real interesting time. In mid-1980s, 85, 86, our doctors pulled us in, my family, my mother, my father, and my little brother, because my father is a hemophiliac and my little brother was also a hemophiliac.
Yes, that's Patrick.
Patrick.
Right.
Yes. Mm-hmm. And they asked us to come in to have a blood study done. And what they were doing is they were testing the whole family for HIV. They sent the blood to Duke University, and my mother came up negative, my father came up positive, I came up positive, and my little brother Patrick came up positive.
What is your father's condition?
My father is doing well. He's on medication. His T4 counts range between 200 and 300, and he's still working.
Right. And what year was your, sorry to get all these, it's important, the chronology here, the year in which your brother was tested in...
86.
And how old was he, how old was Patrick, your little brother, as you call him, when he was tested positive?
11.
11. Now, did he not become part of the Make-A-Wish Foundation?
Yes, he did.
And what was his wish?
His wish was to meet his lifelong love, Christy Brinkley.
And the arrangement was made?
The arrangement was made.
Yes, and you live in, did you say?
Detroit area, Michigan.
So you had to fly, your brother had to fly to New York. I mean, the arrangement was that your brother would fly to New York and he'd meet Christy.
Yes.
Right. Now, he's pretty sick little boy at this time, right?
Yes. This was when he was about 13,
right.
13 and a half.
Did you come with him?
Yes, the whole family came out to New York.
You must have been scared to death on that airplane.
I can't even describe to you what it was like to sit 10 rows behind my family. We weren't sitting together. I could see we had to sit on the ground for a long time, and we finally took off, and I could see once we took off that my mom was frenzied and frantic. And I went up there, and I could see that my brother's coloring had turned an awful yellow-green color, and it hit me that that was him dying in the plane. And unfortunately, and I'm very ashamed of this, my first thought was, I hope no one on this plane figures out what he's dying of.
Sure. No, that's very honest to say that. The plague, people run, they start walking circles around you. It's terrifying.
Right.
And you don't want this to happen to your little brother.
Right.
So what'd you do? You had to tell somebody you're going to need, and you don't want to say what it is because then you're going to a hospital whether you like it or not, and you don't get the choice of, is this all true?
Very true.
You're going to go to a certain hospital, so you tell them what? He's got something else. You lie, right?
Right. We had contact numbers to call in New York if Patrick had any problems because he was very ill. The people we called strongly suggested that we not tell the ambulance drivers what he was dying of because either, one, they wouldn't take him, or two, they would take him to the wrong hospital, not where the doctor who was briefed on Patrick's case before he came out, where the doctor was. And so when the ambulance drivers came up to the hotel room, we spent about 45 minutes going round and round and round in a discussion about what was wrong with him. Instead of caring for him and getting him to the hospital, he was having difficulty breathing, he was delirious, he couldn't talk. He obviously was on death's door, and these ambulance drivers had to have this 45-minute discussion with us about what he had.
Do you remember the pathology report on your brother? Did he have toxoplasmosis?
Actually, no. From what I remember, he basically, his organs just failed. His liver failed, his kidneys shut down because of the extreme stress.
Randy Ellman nods with approval. You know too much about this already.
Well, they give up the fight. It's, they fought the good fight, and
and everything starts to shut down. He gets to the hospital. You finally get him to a hospital. Was it Cornell?
Yes, it was.
Cornell Medical Center here in Manhattan.
Yes.
And did Christy Brinkley get there?
Make-A-Wish arranged with Christy to have her meet him in the hospital room. She came in and she was absolutely beautiful, wonderful. She hugged and kissed Patrick, gave him several games and a T-shirt, and she spent maybe an hour and a half with him. I'm not really sure. And then Patrick got tired out, and she left probably around 2 o'clock, and Patrick died that evening at 11:30.
At age...
13 and a half.
Another voice, Phil.
Yeah.
Another voice.
Yeah. Now, Shelley, you appear not to be ill. Is that not true?
Oh, I'm not ill. I have a theory that my health is only getting better the more I talk about this, and the more I fight, and the more I try to educate people. I'm a middle school teacher, and my goal is to make sure that none of my students ever have to deal with this. And this is part of the way we do it.
We'll be back in just a minute.